All right, guys, guess what? It's Saturday night, and while all of you are having so much fun, if you're watching my video on a Saturday night, you might be having as much fun as me. But what I'm doing is tonight, I'm going to solve this issue because winter is upon us, and even though there's all sorts of insulation up in the attic, we've got this big hole here, so we can't really run the heat that much. Because as you know, it's just gonna, it'll warm up the space, but it's just gonna, the convection's gonna take all the hot air and it's gonna go up inside this hole into the attic and then out through the vents that exist in the attic. So really what we're looking at here today is we're gonna build ourselves a attic hatch. So what the plan is I'm gonna actually build my hatch using some hinges because I want it to flip up. And the reason I want to do that is because, in the house we have a attic hatch that kind of goes up and then you got to put it to the side. And what happens is it ends up getting dirty and scratched and then you have to kind of eventually repaint it, which is what I'll have to do. So what the plan is for this one is I'm going to actually just, build a piece that's going to fit in there and then it's going to flip up inside and then I'll build a latch up top or whatever just to kind of hook it, but I'm gonna put it on hinges so it just kind of flops up, and then as it comes down it'll seal along an inner ledge that'll be there, and I think that's the best way for me to proceed with this one. I took some measurements of the hole size, and we're looking at it's about 32 inches by 21 1/4. And what we need to figure out though is, because I'm going to be building a bit of a, it's not just a thin piece of board, essentially I'm going to make an insulated door that's going to be up there on hinges. So what that means is it's going to be a sandwich a little bit. So this is kind of, let's say, the top or the bottom cross section. This would be the side. Now on the side, what we're going to have is we're going to have a piece of plywood on top and a piece of plywood on the bottom. The bottom is going to be the visible one, so that one's going to be 5/8 because that's what I've got, and then the top one's going to be 1/2 inch because that's what I've got as well. So I've got some scraps I'll use for this, the part that'll be in the attic that I don't care about the look that much, and then this one will be one single nice piece of 5/8. The piece in between will be a 2x4. And what we're going to do is put some insulation when we build this, put some rock wool in the middle so that we'll close it up and it'll just be insulated. Now this here will have to come down obviously on a lip as it closes. Okay, so let's say this is the hinge right here and this thing flips up inside this box, right? So essentially what we've got is the hinge is going to go on this side here. And we do have enough distance so that this whole piece right here is going to be able to flip up and then I'll be able to get inside there. The trick here that we need to calculate, we need to figure out what our clearance angle is, because we can't just make this trap door exactly the same size as this, because what's going to happen is it's going to bind over here when you try to close it or open it. So we want to make it so that it's just the perfect distance. And then the ledge that it's going to come down on, we're going to make sure we have enough clearance on that so that, we've got weather stripping and that can be insulated nicely. So the trick here is we need to calculate as this thing folds up based on the dimensions we have, or flips up, what's the longest distance that this piece can actually possibly be before hitting and binding on the this frame that I've built. So what we need to do is we need to do a little bit of mathematics to kind of figure this out. So you can join me on this journey. I was just going to cut a piece and kind of fit it and just kind of say, oh, what is it going to be? It's pretty easy with a piece of scrap. You just start longer and then just work your way down, probably 2 or 3 cuts and you're there. But I was thinking, we could probably do this mathematically, right? So when we look at this, the longest distance that is possible, let's say this is our opening right here, right? Say that's our opening. I'll just spin this around. I got a little bit more. So the longest distance is really going to be kind of like when it's like this, like as it's starting to come. Let's say the hinges are there, right, in the corner. So there's going to be a distance across here, which would be the, you know, the hypotenuse of this this kind of rectangle here. So we'll, you know, draw a triangle in between the 2 points, and that should, if we calculate this distance, that would be the maximum size that this thing could possibly be inside this hole here, right? And so that's why you know, we need to measure that. Now, I guess the other way we could figure that out too is, given the size that we know that this is 32, we could conceivably just give ourselves some play and really work backwards from that. So that's an interesting theory as well. So I would give myself at least 1/8 of an inch. So maybe what we'll do is we'll say, you know what, the maximum at an angle that piece can be is going to be 31 7/8 if I give myself 1/8 clearance. But rather than make that this dimension, right, let's make it the long one like we talked about here with this picture. So what we'll do is let's make that one on this side 31 7/8. Okay, so this distance here we kind of know because this one's going to be the sandwich that we're going to build. So it's going to be a 1/2 inch plus, you know, 2x4s are not truly 4 inch. They're 3.5 by 1.5, which is kind of strange. Let's say it's 3.5 plus 1/2 plus 5/8. That there is going to be 4 5/8. Okay. So for convenience, I think what we'll do is convert these into decimal, and then what we can do is, you know, calculate that a little bit easier. So this guy here, I believe, is 0.875. So 31.875. And this one here is, I believe, 625. 4.625. Okay. You know, an easy rule of thumb there obviously is, you know, 1/8 is 0.125. Okay, so I've got this fancy calculator here, which doesn't seem, oh, it's kind of coming to life. I thought this thing was, oh, it's a battery. I thought it was solar powered. So we know that given our good old high school math here, that that this could be A, this could be B, this could be C. So technically A squared plus B squared equals C squared. Okay, so what we want to do is we want to solve for, let's say, A squared. Okay, so obviously, you know, our good old trusty Milwaukee measuring tape doesn't really go, doesn't really have marks to get us this accurate. So what we're going to do is we're just going to kind of round that up and say 31.5. Round it down. All right, so 31.5. So what that means is that this one here, in order for us to kind of get the proper swing distance on the maximum size of our opening, we gave ourselves some clearance, made that the hypotenuse, which would be the longest direction possible as it swings out. And at that point, what we did was we decided, okay, well, that calculates exactly what this dimension here truly needs to be. So this one here is, that's the current size here, but the reality is in order to get the clearance of the swing based on the size of this insulated box that we want, we're going to need to make this 31.5 inches long. It needs to be 31.5. That's what we really need to make in order to fit and swing inside a 32-inch box. This dimension we don't have to change at all because there's no other axes that's kind of moving around over there. So over here we have to do that though. Okay, well let's go ahead, and what we're going to do is we're going to cut a couple of strips out of this guy right here, and we're going to fab up the box with some hinge action and see how that goes. We'll probably use the rudder table. We might use the rudder table and then route out some slots for this guy here, just so that we can have it nice and flush as it folds into the attic hatch space. All right, so hopefully this camera is working good. We're trying a new resolution here. It's I think 2.7K at 60 frames a second. So, well, you guys let me know what you think. All right, let's get rolling. Okay, that was a shameless plug from SafeBook, but they're one of my sponsors, so I got to give them a little bit of something. You got to be careful in the shop when you're working because you can cut off your fingers and do all sorts of crazy stuff. So I always like to be extra careful. So anyhow, we're gonna go through all the cuts and all the different pieces, and I've got my beautiful Wen here, part of our Team WNJ.
That's right.
The all-important W.
Yeah.
So she's joining us.
You forgot to say for the sponsor that it was safebookindustrial.com.
Oh yeah, safebookindustrial.com. So if you guys are doing stuff and you need safety tracking wherever you're at, or competency, if you think that your coworkers are incompetent, for sure you need to go and get signed up for that.
Exactly.
It's going to make for a better workplace. So yeah, I got the W here, and she is working with me, and we're working through this build.
Yes.
And you can see right here I'm using the crosscut sled so I can make perfect 90-degree cuts. I'm using the stop there, the guide, as a reference. There's markers on the front, and I use that to kind of set my measurement, and then I just pull it away so there's no binding or anything when you kind of push the sled through the saw blade. So right now I'm just going to make up the pieces that are ultimately going to make up the frame. What do you think of this frame?
It looks very square.
Yeah, so that's the trick, right? If you got all your pieces the same size, then technically you should end up with a fairly square rectangle. And the idea here is obviously I got to mark out some hinges. If you remember, the design is going to have this so it can swing up into the attic. So the idea is that I'm going to mark out these hinges and then ultimately slot them out so they can be recessed inside that 2x4.
Very nice design.
Yeah, that part's kind of boring. Maybe I could have sped that up. But, you know, for those of you who are, you know, going to be building an attic hatch, I didn't find any videos online. So, so here's your wonderful attic hatch video.
That's right. So you're doing some routing.
Yeah. So what this is I built a rudder wing for my table saw. I've got a build series for that too. I'll show you guys that. I'll put that on a video. But essentially, this is the Jessam drop-in, you know, rudder lift table. So there's some threads and a carriage that will actually take it'll hold your router, and actually you can, you know, screw it up or down and set the height very precisely, or change the bits, as you can see here, and so everything's stationary in one spot, which makes it super handy when you're trying to, you know, route long pieces, or things where you want to quickly set up a guide, or even use your table saw as the guide as you route things. So super handy thing to do if you have a table saw that has a large wing on it. You can build something like this. So I'm really impressed with this Jessam drop-in router table. Now, one of the things I needed to do was, because I've got a piece going in that's going to be longer that we have to route, I didn't have an extension or some sort of guide, so we're going to build one right here. And what this guide's going to do is it's going to hook into the table saw fence and allow me to route the 2x4, just like you see right here. That way we can kind of measure up our dimensions, and then you can see I'm going to route out the space for the hinge to fit in.
That's really good.
Yeah, and make sure you turn off your router when you do like little things like that. Otherwise, you know, you're gonna lose your fingers. Gotta be safe.
Yes. SafeBookIndustrial.com.
So there's a little bit of a gap between there. I'm not sure what's going on. I think it's just that the wood I used to make that, I don't believe that the table's actually got a gap in it. So I'll have to take a closer look at that. Now the switch for the router table, or for the routers, you know, underneath attached to the router. So you gotta kind of reach down there. I think I might build a switch and kind of proxy it with a plug over to the side of the table saw, much like the table saw switch. So it might be a project for the future.
Yeah, that would be super handy for it. It needs it.
Yeah. Well, you've done some routing. You did the router table, and you did the table saw today.
That's right.
Yeah. So what did you think of it?
I think that it's a pretty high quality setup for sure. That's why, like, it's pretty hard to buy a Regit Home Depot.
Oh yeah.
They're always gone. Everybody buys them all the time.
Yeah, this is I'm pretty impressed with the Rigid brand.
That's pretty good. Apparently, it's the same factory as the Walt.
Oh, okay. Well, DeWalt, I don't know. Are they a sellout now?
I don't know. I don't think so. We like the DeWalt.
Yeah, I've got a couple of DeWalt drills. Seems to be pretty good. All right, so here you can see we're doing a little press fit, and things are looking really good. And these are some old door hinges that I had kicking around.
No, they're not old.
Yeah, they kind of look like they're brand new. I think that they're like from an old door jam or something.
No, like that door is possibly 2 years old.
Okay. Is that the high-waisted door?
No.
No, it's a different door.
Yes.
We're not talking about the high-waisted door.
No.
All right, so we're gonna speed things up here, and you know, really just kind of try to rip through here. We've got 2 hinges that we got to route, and you can see I'm just working my way over, you know, approximately 3/4 of an inch at the same time, each time. And once those guys fit, then you know, we're gonna put this thing together. Okay, one thing though is that you want to countersink your screws so that they're not sticking above your hinge, because a lot of times your hinges are going to kind of fall flat against you know, another surface or something like that, or you just want it to look good for aesthetics. So what I'm doing is I'm using a high-speed steel countersink bit, and I'm just plunging it down just to kind of kiss the top and put a bit of a chamfer on that edge in order for you know, a wood screw to be able to fit in there, because they have like a conical shape. I'm not sure what do you call those. They're like there's a name for those types of screws. I think they're just countersink screws.
Yeah, they come to.
It's like a countersink profile.
Exactly, that's exactly it.
Okay, so you see that? Look at that. Fits nice and flush. And there's that DeWalt drill. We were just talking about DeWalt.
Well, the clamps over there are also DeWalt.
Yeah, they had like a super good deal at Home Depot where you could get like 2, you know, good sized clamps and 2 smaller clamps, and I think it was like $19. It was around Christmas time, and usually they're like $50, so kind of scored a good deal there for clamps.
Oh yeah.
You know, I like to use screws. You know, you could put nails in here, but it's kind of a savage maneuver. If you did, you would. If you're gonna put nails, like make sure you put like 5-inch nails, adhocs, and then bend them over. Just smash them on the other side with the hammer. That way, if someone ever takes that apart, they know that you're mentally ill. Okay, so here we're starting to fit this up a little bit. You know, I gotta clear off the junk. That's the one thing when you're building stuff, you always gotta do housekeeping. You know, things pile up, they get in the way, and you know, if you really want to do it right, just take a few moments. Like you see, that just took me 15 seconds. Move the stuff out of the way. I could have left it there.
Yeah, but they're talking about it on safebook.com.
Okay, well, you don't have to do any more spamming here. We already give that company the plug. They didn't even send me any promo stuff, so maybe next video. But yeah, so here you can see that you know, the box is coming together. Everything's looking pretty good. It's square, and you know, I'm pretty impressed. So this is the frame that we're going to, you know, have as part of our sandwich. So we're going to put plywood on the bottom, fill it up with insulation, and then put plywood on top, and then you know, get it up in the attic. All right. Okay, so here's a little screw up by me. You know, it's not that the dimensions were wrong, everything's good there, but you'll notice how like the plywood's hanging off the side here, and that's no problem. You know, I'm cutting, everything's going good right here, and because I don't have like an outfeed support at this point, right here, we're getting into a situation. Oh, and look at that, see, the saw just binded, and you know, like a savage here, I just kind of, you know, thinking, okay, well, what am I gonna do? So I ended up twisting off that little piece and had to cut that piece off. But you know, this is where having a track and having an appropriate table and setup would be super nice when you're cutting these types of pieces.
Well, maybe an extra sawhorse would be really good to hold that piece.
Yeah, like maybe 2. Maybe I would need 2, right?
That's right.
But yeah, definitely something. So you can see here, we're just gonna screw on what will be, I believe, the bottom. And you can see I definitely need to clean the garage shop. Things are getting a little bit messy. Oh, that's our $10,000 garbage can there that we're gonna have to do a project on. Tell you why it's worth $10,000. But it's so worth it. All right. So, you know, I like to wear a respirator because there's a lot of glue and different types of chemicals when you're dealing with MDF and plywood. So, you know, if you usually don't wear something like that and you're cutting all day, if you actually do it one day, you'll actually see at the end of the day you feel much better. You're not all like stuffed up with creepy chemicals and
or
sawdust.
You're actually like eating it too.
Yeah, you're eating it and it's going in your bloodstream, and I'm not sure I'm not sure it's a good idea. So after a while, you kind of get used to it, and it's you feel good. It's kind of like if you go to China, you see everyone's wearing those masks. Same kind of thing.
That's right.
Just except you're at home, and you're not in China. So here we're doing the fit up for the top. Just gonna have to mark out a couple little parts on this top piece, and away we go. So this is that last piece. Now some people are wondering, like, why would you ever make an attic hatch video? Well, it's all about being unique.
That's right.
There's not a lot of attic hatch videos out there.
Well, you gotta like give some knowledge to people, share. I think it's all about that nowadays.
Yeah, exactly. And like I said, there wasn't a lot of videos that kind of had different ideas and things to do. So I got to build this thing anyhow. I may as well shoot a video, put it online. You're probably a super intelligent person for sitting here and watching this video, and you're super talented in the shop, obviously.
Yeah, for sure.
You're picking up these wonderful skills. But I'd sure rather be riding those motorcycles than building an attic hatch.
Oh yeah.
Maybe one day I can become a moto vlogger.
Oh yeah.
All right, so here, what I noticed was that I have to notch out the hinges. So I'm gonna kind of quickly mark out where the edges of these hinges are, and then the depth. So having a little machinist square is super handy for these kinds of things, because you can measure and then transfer your measurement, make your mark. And kind of make your mark on the world with a attic hatch video.
That's right.
You don't sound too enthused about this.
Oh, I'm totally into it.
So those are those clamps that I was telling you about. Those are the I don't know, I guess you'd call those like medium size, huh?
No, they were pretty big, but I guess, well, for that brand, it was like kind of like, I would say size large.
Okay. Yeah, so what I'm doing here is I'm using my jigsaw, or I guess you could call it, it's like an orbital saw maybe, or orbital jigsaw. There's a locking pin that you can unlock, and then you can actually spin the blade with your hand on top. So that's really handy when you start getting into tight quarters and you need to be able to get the blade to get in a certain area and turn it. So that's really handy.
It's a good saw. Ryobi.
My first cordless drill was a Ryobi, and it lasted forever.
I saw it the other day.
And you know what? The only thing that gave up on it was the batteries.
Oh, you can put new batteries on it.
Yeah, I could, but it's weaker. I think it's like 12 volt now. All these other ones are whatever, 18, 24, 48.
56.
128.
Oh, yeah.
Look at that. That's your nice little KTM back there.
Yes. It's a nice bike.
So lucky to have a nice bike like that.
Oh, yeah. Thank you, sweetie.
One of the things I do too is I wear ear protection all the time. After a while, you just really appreciate it, and everything's nice and peaceful. The volumes aren't out of control. It's really nice to where your protection.
Oh, definitely. You have to protect yourself. So like that, you're safe. On safebookindustrial.com.
Oh, we're gonna get like hit by the spam trolls.
Oh,
But at least they'll watch the video.
that's right.
That's right. All right, so check this out. We got this thing all slotted out. It's looking good. It's what would you call this fit?
Truck fit.
Yeah, we'll see if it's a truck fit. Oh, look at that, truck fit. This is what I call my Lil Wayne attic hatch box. I'm sure Lil Wayne's got one of these.
No, it doesn't.
Yeah, he does. It's filled with drugs. Legal drugs, that is.
Okay.
Oh, I might be talking.
Oh.
Okay, so this is a fun part here. You know, if you ever get to work with insulation, it's always fun. You get, if you're not covered up, you get to scratch your arms and wherever else you've touched that insulation. So make sure that you're wearing like long sleeves, and also you know wear that mask. You know, this is one of those important times. I think this one's a little bit safer. This is the Roxwool. So it's like a kind of, I think it's like a paper byproduct where it's like soaked in some weird chemicals.
It's more expensive.
It's more expensive, and it's probably because it doesn't, you get into your bloodstream and stay there forever. It just gives you cancer, so your chances are a little bit better for a few extra years. But the fiberglass, that's the bad one. Gonna need some music.
I think so.
Let's cue in the tunes.
You could start singing.
I
Right now.
don't have any lyrics. We actually made the music in this video.
That's right.
Yeah,
You better encourage us.
yeah. So if you like the music, you know, put a comment, and if you hate the music, make sure you tell me what kind of music you want in the next video, and I'll we'll mix up a few riffs for you. Okay, so now that I'm watching this with you, you know, I really should have sped this up. I apologize that you gotta watch this slow drilling action.
It's not too bad.
Well, there's a lot of people like, you know, like millennials that might have bought like some condos somewhere that are just, you know, wishing they could own a shop and build a garage hatch, right? And they just don't know how. So taking the extra time, I think, is super valuable.
Yeah.
Some people might actually watch this part multiple times.
Mm-hmm.
I'll be surprised if this video has more than 25 views at the end of the year.
It's always like that.
Yeah, and then it turns into a blockbuster. You're like, hey, it's my first 5 million view video.
Yeah.
Maybe this one's gonna go viral.
Yeah, it could.
Yeah.
You never know.
Okay, this is like watching paint dry. Get on with it.
Oh.
Yeah, so I really kind of put in that insulation here. Got to make sure that I stay toasty warm.
Did you shut down the heater in the garage?
When, like right now?
Yeah.
Yeah. I still got a couple other spots that I got to do some insulating, but it's pretty good. Like you just kind of run it for a little bit and it retains the heat. So it's probably, you know,
It's very efficient.
yeah, like it was probably plus in there today.
Oh, that's good.
And it was minus 21 outside.
Oh yeah.
Maybe I'll just fast forward this and we'll cut and chop.
Well, it's up to you. It's not a big deal.
Okay.
Look, it's light, like a feather.
Yeah. So you'll notice I left like a certain amount of space all the way around, and you know that's not a mistake. The idea there is that we're gonna have a ledge that this flops down onto, you know, with the hinges, and that ledge is what's gonna hold it from, you know, just kind of hanging at a weird angle, and it's also going to be insulated to create a seal.
Very clever. You want to seal as much as you can, and put a lot of insulation in whatever you do, especially in cold climates.
That's right. So otherwise you're just gonna waste money, right? You turn on the heater and it just goes right up there.
Totally.
Okay, so now I'm gonna start building the little frame that's gonna hold up the door, and it's gonna sit in that recess. So I'm gonna rip this 2x4 or 2x2 that I previously made, and you know, you gotta make sure you stop early. Don't put your hands all the way through there.
Oh yeah.
And you know, this one here, you got to be firm too. You don't want to go too fast, otherwise you'll choke out the saw, blow the breakers, and maybe get that 2x4, that piece shot back into you. So after a while, you'll kind of know the feed of your saw, and you know what you can do and how you can push it through. And then when you get close to the end,
you just let it drop.
Well, no, you got to push it through with this stick.
Yeah, the feather stick.
No, that's not a feather stick. It's a push stick.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. And you know, don't reach.
But that's like also like feather boards.
Yeah, yeah. There's a feather bar. So I was gonna say, don't reach around, right? What you want to do is you want to, you know, shut off your saw and then walk around to the other side.
That's right.
You don't be lazy and try to reach. That's when you're gonna get hurt.
Yeah, and it's really dumb.
Okay, so now we're gonna use our trusty crosscut sled to get these things down to size.
Look at that welder on the side.
Oh yeah, that's our little TIG welder.
So Tweeko.
Yeah, so if you guys want to see some videos on TIG welding, aluminum, mild steel, and stainless steel, make sure you sub, because we got some cool videos of you know, how to do that. And it'll be led by Miss W.
That's right.
She's gonna show you how to do it.
Definitely. And your head will spin.
Like The Exorcist.
That's right.
Well, that'll be interesting. All right, so those are looking pretty good. So what I'm going to do is miter the edges, because with the way they're going to fit together at the corners, I'm going to make it so they fit together with a 45-degree miter joint.
Yeah.
And because I don't have a big desk where I do my woodworking, I'm just throwing the saw on the ground and just chopping down there. It's kind of like I've always done it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And that's my little Delta. That thing's been a champ for many years. I think I've had that thing for
10 years?
Yeah, 10 to 20 years.
Well, that's a huge difference. Is it 10 years or 20 years?
What are you trying to do? Put me on the spot?
I don't know. Maybe we can.
How about we like meet in the middle at 15?
That's what I was about to say.
Okay, let's do 15.
Okay. That looks pretty recent. I think it's possibly like something like 12 years ago.
Okay, this is another one to fast forward. It's like,
Oh yeah. Yeah, I agree. There's a lot of little part that you should
like
should've-
speed up,
Yeah,
right?
you should definitely speed them
Well,
up.
that's what I was doing, and then I figured, well, we'll do this recording, right? And then, you know, now that I'm watching it, it totally sucks.
No, it doesn't.
Well, this part sucks. Like, I wouldn't want to watch like someone like just look for a fucking measurement.
You should totally be twerking in that shot.
Yeah. Well, I'm not like doing male makeup videos. So if I was, I would totally twerk. No twerking in the shop. It's too dangerous.
That's what they say on
Okay.
safebookindustrial.com.
Okay, I think that we're interrupting ourselves here. And you're not going to be allowed on any more of my videos because you're just spamming. Oh, look at that. Looks pretty good.
Oh yeah.
So I think we're interrupting me.
Really?
Yeah.
In what way?
Well, I'm talking, trying to tell people how that thing is going to fit up there.
Oh my god. Okay, I think we should shut up and let you do what you do.
Oh yeah. Look, you can see all those staples there on the side. That's for me like stapling plastic.
I found some on the ground.
Really?
Yeah? I had to pass like the broom.
I found some like in the tire of the truck. I think that's why
That's
I had
exactly what I was trying to
I
prevent.
think that's why I had a slow leak.
Oh.
No, I sweep the floor every time I'm done. But I don't inspect it, so.
Yeah.
All right, so check this thing out. This thing is what do you call that little thing I bought?
It's a gripper.
The gripper. Okay, so that thing is super cool because when you're pushing it through, if you have some sort of mishap or whatever, you know, it's that plastic that's going to take the blade, not your fingers. And it's a little bit different because you're not pushing so much from behind, so you got to have you know, a good grip, hence the gripper, and you just kind of push that bad boy through. Yeah, and see, look, I'm tempted to reach for that, but it was kind of off to the side, so I grabbed it.
You always have
Yeah.
to let them drop to the ground. Never take a chance.
Yeah, but I didn't want to wreck my piece on that one.
It would not wreck the piece. It's just wood. And it's pretty strong.
All right, so we're gonna go for piece number 2. And the gripper has these little channels in the middle, which is kind of cool. So you could actually straddle the blade with that little device, and you don't have to worry about too much.
Oh yeah?
So I'm just cutting a slot, as you can see. And that's when you have to, in order to do that, you have to take off some of the safeties. Like this table saw, you can put safeties on the end, make it a little bit better.
Nice.
But you know how it is with all those safety devices. You just rip those bad boys off. Because it's not cool to have safety devices on your machines. At least that's the way it used to be.
That's right.
But then what happened is
30 years ago.
Yeah, 30 years ago. But the trick is like on YouTube, you got to pay attention, because now what's cool is to have all your fingers and all of your limbs.
Yeah, well.
I rarely trust, like I watch a lot of machinist videos, and I rarely trust the ones where the guy's hands are all like beat up.
Oh yeah.
And with the black fingernails, that's the funniest one.
Yeah, it's like trying to be a goth or something.
the goth machinist. All right, so here, you know, now what we're going to do is we're going to take off that piece. So we cut the slot at the right depth, and now we're going to come in at 90 degrees to that and do another cut, and that's going to actually take that piece out.
Yeah.
So you can kind of set the gripper up at the right height you want, and then you just kind of extend that little you know, a little support on the side, and that makes it more stable as you push it through.
Oh yeah.
Yeah,
It's
like
just,
I love
wonderful.
that gripper. You know, it's the old days of me doing this before I had that was super sketchy. There's actually a big dent in my garage door from like some wood flying back.
That's true.
Good thing nobody was standing there.
Oh yeah.
So you can see my technique as I pull it back, push it through. You might think I'm actually a professional.
You are a professional.
Professional weekend warrior.
I am a professional.
Yeah, you're a professional with that welder.
Yeah.
All right, so here, this
But
is
we have more than 2 welders.
oh yeah, for sure. Okay, we're shutting down the welder talk here. It's
Oh.
Rudder time. All right, so this here is purely aesthetic, but I wanted it to look a little bit better, so I'm putting some profiles on the edge. So this one here is a 45 degree bit, and I'm able to kind of plunge it right into the bit, primarily because it's got a bearing on the top, so there's a stop that won't let it go any further. So that's what allows you to kind of put a nice edge on something. And you know what's confusing to me here is whether I'm supposed to, like, you know, there's a concept called conventional and climb milling in machining, so I'm not sure about the routing, if one's better to go one way or the other. It seems like the wood grain, you know, likes to blow out any which way. So if you are a routing pro, maybe like leave me a comment, because I could certainly use some tips. Should I be always running conventional or always climb milling the wood? I'm thinking that climb milling makes the most sense on the router direction, just because it'll chew into it rather than kind of blow it out the side.
Yeah, that's right.
That's what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
But you'll see there's another piece here where things get a little squirrely on me. It's coming up. And it's probably has to do with the direction that I was traveling and kind of getting close to the edge. I think it's right here. Let's see. No. So I didn't take the whole cut at once. I kind of, you know, like did a small cut and then moved into it. Okay, yeah, I think it's right here. Watch this. No, it's not there.
So much suspense.
I think it's going to happen any moment. No, it's actually happening at the edge. But this is a nice close-up.
It's a nice
Yeah.
shot.
See, the reason why that ring is red is so that you don't put your fingers in there. So red equals danger. You gotta keep your fingers away from there. So that was kind of a rough cut. So watch this here. Oh, look at that. You saw that? It kind of
That's like
jumped
a
on me.
Safe book industrial moment.
Yeah, safe book. Almost lost my fingers there. No, I didn't actually lose my fingers there. I didn't almost either. It's just, it has to do with the little blade, probably the way it's turning in the direction, just kind of kicked out on that edge. Now, alternatively, I probably could have put this one in between the fence guide and then just kind of ran it straight through as well. It's another option. And then just a little bit of hand sanding, clean it up, make it look good.
Yeah.
Of course, after all of this, you have to go dust off the bikes because they get like a fine powder on them.
They always do.
Yeah, like even if you don't do anything, everything gets dust on it.
Yeah.
I'm not sure where this dust comes from.
Well,
They should like make dust like against the law, like make it illegal. They should ban dust.
Yeah.
I'm sure our wonderful politicians will work on that.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so here's a little bit more of the finished product. I didn't show you this part, but we definitely drilled these holes and countersunk them. I think I'm kind of talking at the same time.
I think so too. I think that you are.
Oh, look at that. Another truck fit. Lil Wayne would be proud. All right, down the ladder. And now it's time to put those bad boys up. Which are the end pieces, as you can see up there. Those two I kind of showed you on the video, but I did the other two end pieces off camera. And what I did was okay, so I also did this little part here, which is pretty basic. I've got this sticky on one side and it's not sticky on the other. You don't want double-sided, obviously, unless you're gonna glue that bad boy down for good. Essentially, this stuff is from, it's kind of older weather stripping I had from an old canopy, a truck canopy that was given to me that had, you know, you put it underneath and then you put the canopy on the truck and this kind of seals it up so you don't get water and other types of weather in there. But anyhow, this is the finished product here. As you can see, we've got this ledge right here, and you can kind of see, hopefully you got enough light, but you can kind of see where we have this kind of black weather stripping. Then that's that little piece here that I've got. And at the moment I need two hands to kind of bring this bad boy down. So maybe I'll set up the camera and show you that. And I think we're ready to close this thing up for tonight. What I'm going to do is put a handle on the inside, because it's actually a fairly heavy insulated door now. So unless you got a handle, you're going to have trouble getting it up from the inside if you're in the attic. So I'm going to have to put a handle on that. I almost got trapped in there, but I had my drill and my screws, so I kind of screwed some screws into the top and was able to pull it up, so I was able to get out. But yeah, you know, you don't want to spend the night up there in the winter. It's just not going to be that good. All right. Okay, so I'm going to let that guy down and maybe show you some action of it going up and down. And it also just skims the side that we had measured and calculated, so it's just perfect. So it's kind of turned out pretty good. Obviously, we're going to have to seal things up a bit. One of the parts, obviously, that kind of bugs me is the corners on these when I was working in the rudder table. I still got to learn how to use that table a little bit better and maybe set up some guides. But essentially it hooked it and kind of ripped out the corner. So, but we can fill that with a little bit of putty and some caulking when we finish and do the paint. And then when we finish this whole section. Well, actually, before you go, you you want to help me maybe clean up? This part I did. But somebody's got to sweep up and vacuum up all the sawdust.